My name is Funmi Balogun. I'm the Director of External Relations and Advocacy with IPPF-Africa Regional Office.
Okay, what work is IPPF at the regional office doing as part of CARMMA in terms of working on reducing maternal mortality in Africa?
As you know, IPPF is the foremost non-governmental organization that provides sexual and reproductive health services, in particular maternal health services and family planning services outside of government in Africa. So we have 38 member associations in 38 sub-Saharan African countries that form part of the IPPF Federation in Africa. And so we have always, since the 50s and 40s, provided maternal health services in terms of reduction of maternal deaths in Africa. But as part of CARMMA, one of the things we are doing is we are partners, of course, because of that. We're partnering with UNFP and the AU Commission in terms of how do we support advocacy, not just in terms of provision of services, which we already do and have a niche, but how do we then strengthen the partnership using CARMMA for advocacy for policymakers. And as you know, IPPF is also set up, all the member associations are set up by volunteers who are in different spheres in their respective countries. So how our aim is actually to get involved so that a lot of our volunteers would also begin to work as CARMMA advocates using service provision as a kind of research and policy to inform policy, and then use the champions to reinforce the CARMMA campaigns so that government continue to prioritize maternal mortality.
Okay. I'm sure you're aware that on Sunday there's a high-level event that will be held to allow governments to revitalize their commitment to CARMMA. Now, a lot of work has been done, challenges have been faced, but in your view, what do you think is the key ingredient for Africa to be able really to achieve the accelerated reduction of maternal mortality?
I think the first thing is to have a real consensus from African governments that maternal mortality reduction is a priority, and there will be zero deaths from from pregnancy-related causes. And once we're able to get those kinds of commitments from government, and then it becomes part of so it's not just campaigning and launching, but that governments actually decide that in the next 5, 10, 20 years, Africa must not have, if we have maternal deaths, they will be negligible. And once we can all commit to that, it means that resources will be made available. It means that development partners will all push together to work around maternal health, reduction in maternal mortality, and working specifically at targeted communities, because when we talk about it as if we're all homogeneous. We know those who are more prone to maternal deaths is young people, young girls who are married early, people in rural communities who are not able to access healthcare services because they are not available in the communities, women who've had too many children, who are not spacing their children, unsafe abortions, that is also a very high contributing factor. So once we're able to deal with the areas, first and foremost, where are the spaces, where are the communities in Africa where we need to target the advocacy campaigns as well as our resources so that we begin to reduce, we actually reduce it. So we don't aggregate. For me, that's the way to go. So we use the campaigns as launching pads, but it's decentralized, so to speak. It's not done just at First Lady or President level, but in every community and in every country to do a kind of analysis. Where is this campaign most needed, and who are those that are most vulnerable to maternal death, and put resources there, and that's how we can get to zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've highlighted a lot of key points, but a key word you said is decentralizing, or making sure the campaign cascades as low as possible. And you've also pointed out that young people are the most affected, or the key affected population in terms of risk of maternal mortality. You've talked of the issue of early or child marriages and the risk that puts young people in. So now, looking at the large population of young people we have in Africa, what do you think is the role that young people can play in terms of making sure that we achieve what we want to achieve in accelerating a reduction of maternal mortality?
For me, I think it's young people taking the leadership, and not because one of the things I always find strange. What I say all the time is youth is just a rite of passage. Everybody we were all young and we all grew old. And that for a long time growing up in Africa, it wasn't about what can governments do for young people. It was about young people taking action and deciding that, you know what, this is what would happen. This is the kind of government we want. These are the kinds of priorities we want. And actually actively being political. For me, young people have to be political and take on the issues that are very critical. In terms of programmatic, so that's one way of young people engaging. In terms of programmatic, it's more to do with how do we ensure that certain things are integrated into our policies, our resources. Comprehensive sexuality education, we talk about it all the time. Practices affecting young women, early marriages. You do not see young people actively campaigning against it. You do not see a movement of African young people that are totally committed, that talks to government, that are leading from the front to say, you know what, this has to stop, and these are some of the things we need to do. Because like you say, young people are still, they're the most populous in Africa. So they do have a lot of power. So for me, I think it's young people taking leadership and actually making demands on their governments in terms of comprehensive sexuality education. It shouldn't be organizations, it shouldn't be IPPF or these organizations campaigning. It should be youth-led organizations in the countries talking about comprehensive sexuality education, talking about child marriages, talking about, all the young girls that are dying from abortion-related causes, HIV, lack of involvement in governance. And once that begins to happen, then we'll see, I believe that we'll see a change, and that then it impacts on the lives of young people.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, just one final statement I'll ask from you. For the meeting on Sunday, what would you say in probably one sentence or two? What word would you give to heads of state? Now, given the work you're doing and all you've said, what word would you like to give to heads of state as they prepare for the meeting on Sunday?
Not a word. It has to probably be a sentence. Okay. I'm tired of commitments that are not meant. It should be passionate in terms of, you know what? And I don't necessarily expect that all the heads of states present will say, this is what I want to do, or agree. But that if we get 2, 3, 4, 5 who stand up and say, you know what, in my country, this is my commitment to the reduction of maternal mortality, and in the next 10, 15 years, I do not want to have maternal mortality in my country, and put everything he or she has into that commitment. That is my goal and vision from that meeting. Even if it's one president who does that, I'm very happy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes,
thank you for your time.